I'm Jessica Kennedy, and I'm dancer in residence at Rear Red here. We'll go down the line.
My name is Deirdre Grant. I'm the choreographer on Off Your Trolley. I'm the artistic director for Myriad Dance in Wexford.
I'm Linda, and I'm from Tallaght Community School, and I'm part of the dance team.
I'm Louise Kelly. I'm a teacher in Tallaght Community School.
Such a variety. So I was wondering about the concepts behind the film and what made you actually start it in the first place. Were there particular themes you were interested in, or was it more narrative driven? So did it have a story, or were you looking more at it as an abstract film? So, do you like to start?
Okay, yeah. I suppose in our case, with the I was working with the County Wexford Youth Dance Company, and so they're a company that already exists all year round, and they would do several projects during every year. And one year they were quite anxious to. Well, I suppose it was it's quite cool at the moment to do a film, and I suppose that was at the back of their heads, and they asked if they could do one, and so we worked very hard on trying to access a bit of funding to do film work, because from my naive understanding, or my inexperienced, because I work in a professional dance and not film, I always thought film was very expensive, and it proved to be the case when we worked on it. So we had a very specific theme when we worked, because we had accessed funding through Lergus, and it was a youth in action scheme, and the young people on the film that you saw actually project managed the film as well as being cast members. So they had to schedule rehearsals, draft up the sheets, the different scenes, the storyboard. Thank you very much. They had to organise pretty much everything. Now, they were mentored and they were coached through it by the team at Myriad and the director as well. But under the funding, the theme that we had to set was we had to involve citizenship and social inclusion and young people's facilities and the lack of facilities. So our theme was driven by ticking some of those boxes, but as we are very creative artists, we always try and find a way to do what we really want to do. And so, we think we got a theme in there that really, that supported who they were and their personalities, and they were full of personalities in this particular year group within the youth company. So we married the two ideas together, but we did have this checklist that dominated a little bit early on in the process.
Well done. That's great that they managed the project themselves.
It's quite a tough one, because I hadn't worked on a film either before, so I was learning as I was going along, too, and it's just a whole different ball game. And a lot of work, and I think the kids were really gobsmacked about how many times they had to do things. You probably had that 30 times, and that would take 30 seconds would take 3 hours to shoot.
Well, that's what I was thinking for that last film. That poor guy, the stop motion. I can't believe how many times he would have had to have done that. How about you?
Well, our piece was actually originally a dance piece called Yawa, and the original piece was about listening and about our noisy lives and whether people want to listen or not, and it's kind of just that urge for silence, really. And what I was doing with this was taking it and putting it into a house and getting all this madness and trying to get some kind of narrative out of it. So yeah, a bit of madness in there. But we had a really, really great time doing it. It was very, very well. We were very lucky in so many ways, with the weather, with the dancers. Everybody was brilliant. Nobody turned up late or had any problems, or it was just a dream shoot, and it's just brilliant. And obviously Philippa was keeping us all in order as well, so that had a lot to do with it. But the piece itself, I mean, kind of came together on the day a lot. I had quite a vision for it, but we had shots that we had originally panned out, but then we were saying, is that really working? Not really. And then the last shot there with the dancers in the window, that completely came out on the day. We just said, right, that's not working, in the bin. Let's try something new. And I mean, with dance, I suppose you're not depending on a script, and in my case, I wasn't depending on sound, so I said, let's give it a go, and we had a completely different ending to what, it was always going to end with the eyes closing like that, but it wasn't, just the kind of weird, surreal bit at the end kind of came after a while, after we'd kind of gone and tried a few different things. But yeah, that's pretty much what it was, and in terms of meaning, really, it was basically the dancer, the main dancer, Maeve, and she's trying to find silence and trying to find peace, and she finds it actually in a busy street, which is not very peaceful at all, is it? But it was kind of her own kind of solitude, I suppose. So, yeah, thanks.
You two?
Our piece, it actually came, like your own, from a performance piece that we had originally done through work with Louise Kelly, who was the dancer in residence here at South Dublin Arts. And basically she was doing a project about how dance can be affected by its environment, or how the environment can be affected by dance. So she mentored us on this project between October and December, and we came up with the piece Wonderland. It was very much a collaborative piece, myself and the dancers working together, and Louise coming along, questioning them, giving ideas, and, you know, kind of saying, you know, where we're getting our inspiration from, what kind of themes we were coming up with, and what was inspiring us. Really kind of introducing the girls to the idea of dance as an art form, not just as a performance. And so we performed our piece in Shamrock Rovers Stadium. Deliberately, again, another environment that's not necessarily associated with dance. And through that then, we actually applied for creative engagement funding. And we were awarded funding to make a dance film. And so we took that opportunity to then go back to our original piece, and what had inspired our original piece was our school environment, and actually look at our school environment. And it was very personal for the girls, wasn't it? You went in, when we were kind of choreographing, I was very conscious of them using their personal space and how they explore their personal space. And when you see the original dance piece, it's really clear. In the film then, they were able to choose their personal space, something that meant something to them in the school. So they went on a very exciting adventure day, going to places in the school that they'd never been to before, that kind of thing. And, you know, as we had worked on the piece, themes started to develop, the idea of sisterhood, the idea of male versus female, silence versus confusion, noises that are in the school. So that sort of started to come out in our film piece as well. A lot of the girls chose male-dominated environments that they had never been in before, or else they chose spaces that were really open and they had one person in it, which would have been unusual. So that's why at the start of our film we have shots of the school when it's empty, because we wanted to have the contrast. I'm sure all of you remember from going to school, it's one thing we all have in common here in the room, that when you go to a school late at night or a school during the holidays, it's weird, it feels different when you don't have the people there in the building. And we wanted to kind of capture that. And one of the girls actually chose the name Wonderland for the piece. It was the name of the original dance piece, but also for the film, because we wanted it to be more about the movement and the environment, and then people take their message from that. So it can be whatever you want it to be. So you've got land in it, as in the physical environment, but also the wonder. Is it you're wondering this particular place, or is it a journey in the imagination? And so that's why, like, even the piece of music we chose, we deliberately chose something that wasn't going to necessarily put a specific meaning on the piece for the girls. Now, in our original dance piece, it's a lot shorter than the film, obviously, because an awful lot of the solos are going on simultaneously. And so it's kind of like a journey of discovery when you see it as a full piece. But within the film, we would have loved, we were saying, time is always against you in film. We made our film during the midterm break in school in 4 days, because all of the girls that are on the screen, bar one, are doing their junior cert this year. And so as the piece kind of went on, that's why the junior cert kind of got added into it, as, you know, it was a significant thing to them at the time. So, you know, it is something that if we were to get a chance, if we had more time, we would have played around with the music more. But it still was not something that was to distract from the message, which was that people were to take their own ideas from what they saw in the film, you know.
Seem to see that a lot actually in the films, that the people in it had quite a lot of influence on the choreography, so it seemed anyway, in all of yours. And there was a lot of old houses as well, or old unused spaces, the theatre and the old houses, in your empty school.
Yeah.
Does the audience have any questions? Yeah.
I just wanted to know if you guys could talk about the difference between, maybe Linda could, the difference between when you do something on stage for performance to film, what kind of choices you get to make for film that you don't get to necessarily make for a stage performance.
And on stage, you're told where to like stand, and like you have to be on stage. But like doing in your own place, you get to decide what like where you want to do it, like deep down, like what it means to you, instead of just like going out doing it and like just leaving it there. You know, you get to experiment with new things.
My question is an ideal one to follow up on Tori's. I was going to ask it before. I'm just wondering, because I think all of you seem to say that the film aspect of it is new to you. And following on from Tori's question there, I'm just wondering, having gone through the discipline of dance for film, would it change anything or inform you, either for choreographing a piece in the future or perhaps for dancing a piece in the future? Would it change your approach basically to live performance, or what you would want to do with a live performance? Because Tori was just mentioning at the beginning there how film is really, really different, because it allows you to focus in on the shoots and focus in on the arm, or focus in. So does it concentrate the mind in any different way for live performances, or how you might deliver them?
It would, yes, definitely. For, I mean, the thing about film is that you can, it's so specific that you can do a shoot in very short amounts of rehearsal time. And that was what was really strange for me when I first started doing film or dance on film. Whereas you'd have these long rehearsal processes for a live show. But it does, I mean, you have to get it right. And that was the main thing, is that it has to be consistent, because you're going to keep having these takes, and then the editor has a nightmare if not every take is the same, which happened in the last film I just did. He wasn't very happy. So do you have?
Long question for Louise. Just interested, does the inclusion of media in the English syllabus have any influence on what you've done, given that it's an extracurricular activity, it's virtually a part of dance?
Yeah. Well, I really do think it makes a huge impact, especially on helping the students, because Linda's actually in my English class as well. And we took out our dance film and showed it to our English class, and we looked at it from the perspective of shooting angles and all that kind of thing. So yeah, being involved in a film, I really do think that it really does help students fully understand what they're being asked to engage with on quite a deep level in the Leaving Cert curriculum, and less so in the Junior Cert curriculum at the moment. But you know, with the changes that are coming in with the Junior Cert that they're talking about, including more project-based work and all that kind of thing, you know, it is really important that there's these kind of experiences for students. And you know, this is something that is extracurricular, it is something that is outside of school, but extracurricular activities have a huge impact on the life of students in a school, and you know, not only from what they're learning, but like also the social aspect to it as well. Linda, do you want to answer the question as well about, because after doing the film, do you feel now if you had to do the questions that would be easier or something? Here.
Yeah, after doing the film, like, we learned so much. So, like, if we got asked a question about, like, media studies or that, and we find it so much easier now. And we learned, like, different shapes and angles and new words and, like, new things to experiment, like, to do.
I'd like to ask the participants what their highlights were of the film, and then also what the lows were.
I think I mentioned it before, but it's kind of coming up with stuff completely out of the blue. Like, when we were shooting the kitchen scene, when the two girls were arguing in the water, we just came up with so many weird angles. Like, we ended up putting the camera in the washing machine and putting it just in the strangest places, and like, you just can't really script that. And I don't know, I think he was really coming up with stuff out of the blue, really, as I said. So, I don't know.
Right, and the lows?
The lows? I can't say too much. She'll kill me. The lows. I've been on, I come from a film background, so I've been on quite a lot of shoots, and there are huge lows when you're shooting, and especially when the day is just going on, and just so many problems, and on the camera, so many things. But actually, this film, there really weren't that many lows at all. There weren't no problems, and I think it's the one thing I've done where nothing's gone wrong, and plenty has gone wrong. But can you think of anything that went wrong? No, everybody was on time. That's important. Yeah.
I suppose surprisingly, and from the highlight perspective, obviously we enjoyed working with the teenage group that we had, and I had a very experienced director with me who also works in youth film. So that was really nice to have. Like, he really understood young people as well, and how long it would take to do something, or what kind of instruction they might need that would encourage them. Because oftentimes they're quite, they'd be quite nervous. I would be quite nervous doing a film, and majority of our cast were under 18, and with their first film. And so I suppose that was the positive experience. The highlight was understanding that the film was actually made in the editing, and that was tremendous experience. That because you'd work with them on their particular areas and their scenes and different sections, and they'd repeat it 30 times, and by the time you've seen it 30 times, you're thinking, oh God, does this actually even say anything anymore? And then, so you forget about it for a while, and the director goes off into his editing suite, and I had complete trust with the director that we had, and he had a 2-week kind of deadline with it, and he kind of had we weren't sitting down editing together, it was totally Terence editing, and we had made that decision from the start that we would do that, and he had the complete trust. And then when I saw it up on the screen, I just couldn't believe the pace, the tempo, what he'd done with the angles. I was really, really pleased, and I think that was the highlight, was forgetting that there was an editing process about to happen that would transform the work into a different arena or a different, into a different experience. You know.
2 weeks, you say?
He did it in 2 weeks, yeah, deliberately. It had to go to a festival, so it was full on, for him, the lows was, we shot in -2, 3 nights in a row, and oh God, when I think back, I'm thinking about public liability and health and safety. And we just didn't tell the kids it was -2, and there was ice on the equipment one night when we finished at 11 o'clock, and we just didn't tell them, and we just kept doing second position pliés and running up and down the keys, but that was hard, I think that was, and then kind of the same sequences being repeated or tried out, trying to keep them going late at night. Very difficult, so.
Linda, would you like to answer that? No, you answer and then I'll answer.
The highlight was to experiment like new places around school. Like we never been in part of the boys, like woodwork, metalwork. We never been in that part of school until we got to go around and get to under like where we wanted to do. So most of the girls picked like the woodwork room. And then we found a place at the back of the school, which no one knew about. And then we got to do loads.
A highlight for me was, it was deliberate to make sure that a lot of the choice of shots was chosen by the students. I was very much there guiding them and making sure that things came together with a good flow. So what was a real highlight for me was seeing them achieve such a great piece of work when they chose their locations, when they thought about the film angles, and actually seeing that they had learnt something while we were doing it. That was a huge highlight. And that they had come up with sections that were quite creative. It was fun. Like then we'd go into an area that they had discovered. There was a few toilet scenes that didn't make it into the final movie, but it was really great fun. And it's important when you're doing a project for it to be fun too. And there's a few of the other girls here as well, and Peter was showing them how to actually shoot and the difference it makes with different lenses. Yeah, see, you could have said this. And zooming in and zooming out, and the idea of playing around with the special effects. Yeah, do you want to say what you enjoyed? So, it was really, really great to see them choose such interesting locations for themselves, me not having to tell them and direct them, that the direction stage came in after they'd chosen the location. Okay, let's try it like this, let's try it like that, and that they were always willing to try something new. They're very adventurous, and being adventurous gives you that creativity and makes you not be afraid to do new things. I was very proud of the fact that there were other students in the school at the time doing study, because in our school we actually do supervised study during the midterm break and the Easter break for 3rd and 6th years. And they weren't embarrassed, they didn't care, they danced on the corridor in front of them, they had the film going. So I was so proud of seeing how far they've come in the last 3 years, because an awful lot of them had never danced before. Hodges. And so also the low side of it would also be the time pressure. Really, the fact was that because they were doing their exams, we were really, really tight for time, that we had to get it done in the 4 days, and it had to be during the midterm break, and that we did have to get, Peter, he was great to work with. He's another highlight. If I was ever making a film again, I'd definitely work with Peter. He was great with the girls. He's great patience, but he also had a great sense of humour about the work too. But he did the editing, and he listened to everything that we wanted, and working out the storyboard, and he had it done in a week and a half, and he was back to us showing us what he had come up with, and we were given feedback and given the changes. And then we got another highlight, which was we won an award in the Noise Flicks Film Festival when we entered it. So the highs definitely outweigh any of the lows. The only low is wishing that we couldn't have more time to spend on it. you know, that would be the only thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely agree with what you're saying about Peter. I mean,
Oh, he's amazing to work
I
with.
work with a lot of different filmmakers, and sometimes when you're trying to get something across, people are very quick to say, no, that's not
Yeah.
going to work. But with Peter, he's like, yes. Okay, and like he was just really, really open to what I was trying to say, and I was saying to Jessica earlier on, when I try to explain dance, I end up making no sense whatsoever, and I'm like, well, I'll just show you, you know, and they're like, no, I just want to know what you mean, and it's great to have it in the case of the film. It was great because I had Peter, and Peter was like able to take it all in as best he could, but it's really important to be able to have it on paper and be ready to explain everything and have it all really clear and kind of, no, when I wouldn't say, I suppose scripted in your head so you can be ready to kind of.
And he put up with, like, especially like the times where you're talking about the tiredness setting in, sometimes it's cold, and like he spent 4 days with 13 women, you know, and we all had an idea about what we wanted to do, and he kept his cool with us. And, you know, even when we're like, we want to put the camera in the microwave, and he's like, I don't know if that shot will work, and then it did work, and he didn't say, all right, you know, like he actually really wanted to be as creative with us as we wanted to be. And he showed you how to do it. He let them look at the cameras and everything, and the lighting, and so they got to learn an awful lot through working with Peter as well. So he was a great director to work with.